Well, welcome everyone to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I am your host and your resource for self care, connections, and collaborations. And today I have with me John Petrelli. He's been a professional fitness coach for 30 plus years to some of the biggest names in entertainment industry, from Grammy-Award-winning artists to A-lister Hollywood actors, which is really not bad considering at 18 he should have been bound for jail or the morgue. So I know he has an incredible journey to share with us. So let's bring on John. And John, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Number one. Number two is I really want to thank you for providing a platform for people to give their story so other people can engage with it and, relate and hopefully navigate their way through whatever they're dealing with. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, John, can you share with us your journey from you went from like a life of fear and violence to finding purpose and happiness? Can you tell us?
Yes. So I'd be happy to share that with you. It's a, a long story, so I hope you have some time.
We have
But
time.
all right. So before, I think it's important to go back, way back to my childhood and things like that, because a lot of things manifest itself over time, and there may be people in that zone right now where they're a teenager or in their younger years that can relate to kind of the things that I went through. So I grew up in upstate New York. I have a lovely family, and my mom and dad are both from Italy. My parents are immigrants, first generation. And Laura, I should preface anything that I say that I don't hold anybody else accountable for my actions. I take full responsibility for everything I did. We go through this life the best way we can with the tools
Yep.
we have. So when I talk about different people affecting my life, that's just how they affected me at the time, and they were doing the best they could. And I did the best I could with the tools I had, which happened to be limited at that time. So my mom is a bundle of joy. She's 4'11", Italian. If you come to my house, you're going to leave 15 pounds heavier because she's going to feed you 24/7. She just really is the embodiment of joy and giving. And I'm very blessed to have her as my mom. My dad was an awesome provider. He was born in 1921 during the Depression, so he was a little older when he got married, and he served in 3 wars. My dad was in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And in addition to growing up during the Depression and going into the military at 18, he didn't really have a father figure because his father had another family unbeknownst to them. And
Wow.
so my dad didn't grow up with a father figure other really than the military. And not that he ever really communicated these things with me, because maybe it's men, Laura, or maybe it's that generation or a cross section of all that. But we didn't communicate emotions like caring or sadness or feelings like that. I think it was seen as weakness. And I know you have honored us by serving our country. You and I had talked a little bit beforehand. And I feel so in debt to anybody that has taken that step so we can have conversations like this and given of their life to be in the military. So I'm so proud of my father for doing that. But I never knew what he really dealt with because he would never verbalize it. Not until his later years, like his last 2 years of life, did I ever really hear any stories. So I know my father had a lot of demons he probably dealt with. I know he had night terrors, and he got malaria from being exposed to that and would suffer with that. And he ended up going blind because of Agent Orange. So my dad had a lot of trials. He was an amazing provider. He did a ton of things. But unfortunately, I lived in fear of my father. I lived in fear of him, number one, physically, and I lived in fear of just doing things wrong. I was always fearful of not getting it right because the way I'd be treated after. And I started building a complex of I'm not good enough. I can never do anything right. Um, just always looking for approval and never being able to get it. So I know a lot of people had it a lot worse than I have, but that's my reality of my story. So as I was growing up and getting older, the fear that I had for my father, being fearful of him just as a man in general, being fearful of getting things wrong, being horrible in school, not knowing I had dyslexia and failing at school and getting tutors and still not being able to succeed in school. I started building a complex, and that fear eventually turned into anger as I became a teenager. And unfortunately, that anger spilled out into violence. And that was unfortunately, the only way I knew to release that anger. I didn't have communication skills. I didn't have self-confidence. I didn't have the whereabouts and know-how or a mentor in my life to help alleviate some of that pressure or talk things through. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely challenging when you don't have that. Yeah, my family's military background too, not quite the same. We didn't go through all those wars and stuff, but I can kind of relate. When you say when you talk about something, whether you just don't talk about it. Sometimes it'd be looked at as, well, you're being too sensitive. But it's just a different understanding of those emotions, the times you're going through. And I don't know if it was men or not. I don't think we talk a whole lot about emotions. I think some people still struggle with talking about it.
100%. And I believe there's such power in the conversation, right? The conversation you and I are having, we can work things out, and I can find a nugget in something that you say that sparks something in me that maybe somebody else has said a million times, but it just didn't hit me the right way. But you serve it in a certain way, and now it affects me.
Mhm.
And now I can make a change, right? Because I finally have heard it. And I don't want to give the wrong impression that I had a horrible childhood. There were a lot of great moments in my childhood.
Oh yeah.
Positive things that my parents taught me is work ethic. I started working at like age 12. I was working on a farm and baling hay and had paper routes. So I had a lot of great things that were passed down from my dad and my mom. As I became a teenager and I got a little bit older, I was a small kid. I should put in there, I was 4'11" as a freshman in high school, and I got bullied a lot. I would have to say some of it well-deserved. I had a big mouth and probably deserved some of it. But when I got bigger and I started physically developing, I was also training in the martial arts. I was training to protect myself. And I would see something that would spark the same anger in me that I would have in a relationship with my dad. If I saw somebody bully someone or I saw a confrontation, I would be compelled to immediately go into that. And I would have anxiety when my father dealt with me, and I could never answer. I could never talk about it with him or anything. I just had to take his word, whatever he said. And so that anxiety would build up in me and there was no release. But on the street, I had the release of a physical altercation. And it was actually a relief to the tension that would build up in the situation. And the physical altercation would be a release for me.
Wow. Yeah.
So a bad combination and can be addictive, right? So I started getting an identity as someone that got into all these fights. And now I started getting love from that, even though I didn't know that it was love, but I started getting an identity and I started getting an ego and all these things that started momentum in the wrong direction. And in the beginning, you said at 18, someone that could have ended up in the jail or in the morgue. There was one fight that I got into where I literally I could have killed someone, and it happened in an instant. It happened without thought, where I struck an individual. I kicked this person in the face and they fell and their head cracked open against the curb. And here I am at 18 years old, making an ignorant 1-second decision that affects not only my life, but so many people's lives beyond that. That person on the ground, his family, and that it reverberates so far.
Wow.
And to make matters worse, there was a huge crowd. There was an event called Fireworks over Utica. That's a town I grew up in. And there was a big crowd of people and a lot of unfortunate knucklehead youths like myself. And when I struck this individual, I believed another person was grabbing me from behind, and I turned around to confront them. And unbeknownst to me, that was an undercover cop that had seen everything. And
Oh, wow.
now I'm confronting that cop and going to punch that police officer. And I have a handcuff on my right wrist. And so now I get slammed down to the ground by the cop, and I've just literally probably killed somebody. And now I'm going after a police officer. And so at 18 years old, when I should be taking off to college, when I'm just completing high school. I have to deal with the I have to deal with the court system,
Yeah.
and it's not a good place to be.
So would you say that was kind of one of your key turning points then?
It was a turning point for sure, and I wish I could tell you that it was my bottom. I wish I could tell you that it was my absolute bottom. It was a turning point, but unfortunately for me, that there was more to come.
Oh,
There
wow.
was many more altercations that happened, and it wasn't until about 2 years later, and I, I was making improvements. I had the realization that was the first thing, because before this incident, I had, for probably 5 years before then, in my mind, always thinking I was either going to end up dead or in jail. And when it happened, I had the realization that I've been thinking this, and now it is happening right before me. Now it's coming to life. My thoughts are coming to life. And I didn't know how to reverse my thoughts at that point at 18, but I knew
Mhm.
that I had to start going down another path. This is by no means to put blame on my peer group, because I had some amazing friends, but I
Mhm.
wasn't strong enough as an individual to withstand the dynamic of our relationship and make positive choices. So if somebody was headed in the wrong direction, internally, I would know, hey, I shouldn't be doing this. But I didn't have the whereabouts and the strength to stand up for myself and go, hey, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't go out and get drunk. We shouldn't start this fight. We shouldn't do this. So I had
Right.
internal conflict happening all the time. And after this incident where I got arrested, I got put in jail, I got bailed out, I had to go through the court system. When I got out, I started isolating myself, which was a good thing. I found peace and sanctuary in the gym, and I started training and working with weights. And unbeknownst to me, that would be my path for 30 years of helping people be healthy and get in shape. And it was also a place for me to release anger. You feel free to cut in any time here, because
Oh
that's as
no, I
long as
mean,
I went without taking a
I
breath.
can relate because there's a lot of people I know that just, get on to put just to get your frustrations out, work out at the gym, whatever. You have to do something, excuse me, something to relieve that whole stress and, like you said, release the anger in a productive way. Um,
Yes.
and I think we all fall around that age, 18. Well, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of people do. You're still kind of trying to figure out who you are, where you're going. And if you're in a group, I think they call it group think, but basically, you kind of fall in where something's telling you this, but then you don't want to be left out. You want to be like part of the crowd. And it gets us into trouble.
It does. And then we wrap our identity around that, right? You wrap your identity about being part of that crowd, being who people label you as,
Hmm.
and you can find yourself in a pitfall. And thank God for some key people in my life that helped me. And as I look back, some of these horrible moments, I can't take them back now as an individual, as an adult individual, right? So they're part of the fabric of who I am. And my mission is to help people that can relate to this and go, you can have these bad moments in your life. It doesn't define who you are. That defines who you were then. How have you evolved? What can you do to give back? Who can you help now? How do you learn from this and take the tools and move forward?
Right. I mean, just because you were that way doesn't mean that's how you have to be. And we all have the ability to change if we want to dig down deep enough and find the right support, the right help to change.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And my bottom, you had asked what my bottom was there, or my major turning point was about 2 years after this. I ended up getting into college. I went to community college, and I was in college. And this whole time I had a lot of violence in my life. I worked which is crazy if I think about this. I don't even know if I verbalized this before, but I worked catching shoplifters as a loss prevention detective. So I was violently dealing with stuff at work all the time. I was
Hmm.
in the gym dealing with anger and violence and trying to let it out there. I was in martial arts, and then I was fighting all the time. And the last fight I really got into was on New Year's Eve, and a ton of bad stuff happened. Someone's head got cracked open with a bottle. A friend of mine, he had to get stitches. I saw his skull crack open, and people were laying unconscious in the street. But the final straw was someone said to me that night that and he was known for carrying a gun. He says, the next time I see you, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to shoot you. And so then I went into isolation. I couldn't go out. I had no more, I couldn't go out. I had like anger still inside of me. I had nowhere to turn. And I decided at that moment I was going to change my life. I was not going to live like that. And an individual that changed my life and helped me was a friend that I had that lived in California. And I reached out to him and I said, listen, his name was Daryl Hagan, and I'm in debt to him forever. And I asked him, I said, I need a place to stay. I need to get out of here. And he said, I don't have any room for you, but if you can sleep on my floor, I'll take you in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he did. And I had like a couple $100 to my name. And I bought a plane ticket on an airline that doesn't even exist anymore. It was Northwest. And I packed a duffel bag, and I told my family I was going to leave. And they weren't even privy to the fact that someone put a threat on me. And my parents drove me to the airport. And that was back in the day when TSA wasn't around.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You could walk them up to the gate or greet them. Yeah.
Yeah. And they walked me to the gate. And that was the first time in my life. My father walked me to the gate, my mother, and they gave me a big embrace. And that was the first time in my life at 20 years old that my father called me son and said, I love you.
Wow.
And it, you know, it still obviously hits me to my core. And so I boarded a plane and I started a new life. And I literally felt like a bag of bricks of this identity, and this wall I had built was releasing off my shoulders as I was on that plane flying to the West Coast with a couple $100 and just the unknown, but an opportunity that someone had given me
Right.
to potentially better my life. And it's one of the best moves I ever made. By the way, you should have a sponsor from Kleenex after this because of the amount I blubber, but
I should. I know it's hard. It's hard.
But yeah, that was the start, I would say, where my life went from being selfish and all about woe is me and it's other people's fault this is happening, to taking responsibility for my actions and really feeling a little bit of confidence enough to state what I really wanted to do with my life. And as I went on this journey, I moved to California and I become a trainer, a fitness trainer in it was like 1993, 94, around there. Trainers weren't even, it's not like now you can throw a rock and find a trainer anywhere you want, but there was like
There's
one
multiples
test.
now.
Yes.
But they all have a different perspective and a different, different style.
Sure.
Yep.
And I became a trainer. There was one organization that would certify you. And I went out there with the thought that I was going to help people, which was a beautiful thing. But what I found was as I went through and I offered help to them, I received tenfold back from them in inviting me into their journey, inviting me into their life. And as I put my energy out into helping people, I started healing my soul and I started healing myself and finding better ways to communicate and finding better ways to manage things and finding ways to solve a problem or a solution with helping people. And it really changed the landscape of my life.
Yeah, and that is incredible. Very, very difficult to do. A lot of people would hear, "Oh, he's a fitness trainer of the stars," and they think, it's like thing was just handed to you, you got it. But I forget what I was watching one day, but basically, they'll tell you everyone almost has some kind of sad story or something that got them and propelled them, to where they're going. It's just we all have different journeys.
It is. And I feel like you have to own that journey, right? I had so much shame around my journey for so long that I just kept it hidden in this dark place inside. And I didn't realize for me, there was so many undiscovered things there that were powerful enough to help other people, that are just the fabric of who I am. And for me to be an authentic person, I have to own that.
Yeah.
And it changed my perspective. It gave me more compassion when I was compassionate to myself of how other people were all fallible, right? And we all make
yeah.
mistakes. We just try to get better every day. So losing that shame, and I still have feelings about it. Obviously, they're very visceral, but I want to use them for something positive.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're going to go into more about how your experience has shaped your approach, towards the whole fitness and health. We are going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. And that'll give you a moment. We'll regroup, and we'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm a Dharma master. I teach Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy. What kind of Qigong do we teach? Well, it helps you to get your mind into your body and your breath very quickly. We really start off with quite quick movements to help cater for the busy Western mind, coming into stretching out the meridians, waking up the chakra system and the danjons, coming into Jigan meditation, which helps you to really focus on the energy in and around your body, bringing you into that beautiful calm state where you can sit and meditate really easily, whereas maybe before you found it really difficult. So Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy will help you get more in touch with yourself.
Relief for PTSD, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and many other ailments. Introducing Vibe, the world's only pocket PEMF device. You place in your pocket while cooking, cleaning, relaxing, watching TV, sitting at your computer, reading, or walking. Self-contained standalone device. No drugs. No other phone or Bluetooth connections required. No monthly subscription fees. No apps to download. No Bozone. The future of medicine is in the frequencies. Come join the revolution.
Hi, I'm Bobby Aldridge with BAM Metrics. There are so many programs out there that measure your swing speed, sets, reps, your BMI, your body fat. But the one thing they're not measuring that's so essential is mobility. Mobility is the key. If you're measuring your mobility, your performance will get better and you will reduce your pain. I created BAM Metrics to make it easy for people to repeat the exercises so they could do it properly at home on their own. It's simple, it's easy to do, and from a senior to a pro athlete.
Hi, I'm Kelly Melissa Reinhart, host of Make Mental Health Matter. Join me on Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the Achieve TV network right here on E360 TV.
And we are back. So, John, tell me, how has some of those experiences, shaped your approach towards fitness and the health and, working with clients?
Sure. So my life experiences, before I was a trainer has helped shaped it. And then also 30 years of just dealing with people. And at a certain point in my life, if someone tried to give me information, we talked about this briefly earlier, it may have been very difficult for me to digest it. Maybe learning disability, maybe ego, whatever what you define it as. So the way it's shaped is I've come up with this analogy a little while ago, and maybe it'll make sense to you, is a lot of people like eggs to eat, right? You may like scrambled eggs, you may like fried eggs, you may like them over easy. Very few people like them raw. So as a trainer, I try to find out how I can serve something to someone that is palatable for them. It's the same item, but how do I package this so this individual can absorb it and like it? Because if you give me raw eggs, I'm like, I don't care if Rocky had those raw eggs. I'm not eating that stuff, right? And if you give it's good for Rocky. It's not for me. I'm Italian, but I'm not eating raw eggs like Rocky. And so I'm like, how do I package this information? I'm always looking for a way to go around the bend, go around the indirect way or the direct approach and get this to people so they can absorb it and then pass it on. We all have those aha moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to deliver as many aha moments to people as possible because aha moments have changed my life. I continue to have them, and I think they're invaluable. And then also, there are key people. I talked about one of them a little bit, Daryl Hagan, that gave me a place to sleep on his floor. I want to continually be that person for people that gives them a shot, that gives them the opportunity, a little crack of light in the window so they can go through it. There's another person that was Daryl's uncle that actually owned the house. And I give amazing tribute to him in my book. I love him to death. He's passed away now, but his name was Jimmy Treen. And I would call him Uncle Jimmy, even though he wasn't my uncle, but he treated me like he was. And he had his own challenges. He had dealt with substance abuse issues. He went through AA, but he was still a beautiful individual and helped me. So we are all fallible. And through our learning processes, make us a unique individual that can help in that special way. So I'm in debt to those people. This is how it shaped me. I want to pay it forward tenfold. I want to help people as much as I can. And I would say those are some of my key takeaways from my life.
Yeah, and I can relate. That's always been my nature too. Sometimes, went a little too far. You get some of them that kind of just take full advantage, but it never stopped me from trying to help others. It just helped me find different ways or different avenues of helping them instead of, that route. But yeah, can you talk more about the role of mental health? Because that is a lot, to go through all that, to do this. Then you have different ones. And mental health, I know some people are just now starting to talk about it. A lot of times it was just kind of hushed. Not a lot of people talked about it before, but it's an important topic.
Oh my God, I think it's huge. And sometimes there's a stigma attached to it. But if you had a cold or you had a cut, you'd go and get that health thing fixed, right? Or taken care of, or assistance. So mental health, I believe the mind, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but I lost all my physicality. I was paralyzed. I ended up getting paralyzed. And here's someone that's defined by my physicality that ends up being paralyzed in 2021. So I only had my mentality to rely on. My physicality was gone at one point. Mental health is imperative. And I look at it now as, you cannot go to the gym one day and you may think you're going to be fit after one day, but you will not be fit. It is a culmination of systematic actions taken over and over, right? We go and work out, we get a little better. We get another inch forward, another millimeter forward. The same thing with mental health. We can't just put it to the side and go, this is going to get better on its own. So I strategically plan my day for my mental health. So then I can be in a place where I can give more to others. And I think people need to structure that, because if the glass, I'm drinking water, it is almost half empty, right?
Yeah.
And if I never fill it back up, how can I give to other people? Whether you're a housewife, a husband, a coach, a teacher, in the military, a paramedic, you have to fill your cup up. So I would love to give some tips of what I do that have helped me, and maybe people can borrow some of these. And if they don't like some, throw them out.
Please do. I mean, because it's important. That's why I always tell people self-care. I'm like, they always use oxygen on the plane, but me, I'm kind of a car person, so I'm like, it's like topping your engine off with oil all the time and never changing the oil. Eventually your engine's going to seize up. If you don't take that time, your body will do the same thing. So
Yes.
Please, I would love for you to share some tips of what works for you.
I will, but only if I can use that engine analogy in the future with your permission.
Oh, anytime. I'm a car girl.
I love it. So I get up very early every morning. Doesn't mean you have to, but I get up 4 o'clock, 4:30, because I see people at 6, right? So I have to get my stuff in, because if I wait till the end of the day after I've seen 10 people, I have too many excuses of why I can't do it. Life gets in the way, whether legitimate excuses or not, it just won't get done. So I get up before everybody. I love to see that dark time where no one else is up. It's not active. And the first thing I do is I give gratitude for everything I have, because even though my life isn't perfect, it's never going to be perfect, wasn't perfect, I'm grateful for everything I have. I wasn't guaranteed another day.
Right.
So I give my prayers and I give gratitude, and I thank people that have helped me, whether they're here living or have moved on, that have helped guide my life. and then I do breath work. And this is something free everybody can get on YouTube. I personally use Wim Hof breathing, and it's 11 minutes, and it's just structured breathing, and I center myself. Before that, I don't look at my phone. I don't look at emails. I don't look at texts. I know my family for me is home safe and sound because I'm at my house. So the things that are most important to me are safe. And I do breath work for 11 minutes. Then I do a little bit of stretching. I drink a couple glasses of water, and then I get into my workout. And I do that almost every day because one repetition will not make you fit. And one session of breath work won't make you fit, but it's a start.
Right.
And as you get momentum, you'll get clarity. You'll get to put your thoughts down. And from there, I get a workout in. I love to do things that are hard for me because I want to feel uncomfortable and sit in that and get comfortable. I do a lot of jujitsu. I swim like a rock, so I try to swim. And I do things that kind of a positive way to release energy, a positive way to release stress while I'm working on my health. And when I'm done with that, I've done my gratitudes, I've done my breath work, I've done my workout. I have a nutritious meal for me. And then I sit down and I have a structure to my day. And I look at what my plan is that was created the night before. And I go, I have to do this, this, and this for sure. I'm going to maybe get to this stuff. I'm going to tell these people I love them. I'm going to see these people. And I do that all the time, Laura. And for me, that sets my mind with intention as opposed to getting pulled in any direction of what an email may send me or a text. Because
we've all gotten those before where you get one and just kind of like, oh, derails. And it's like,
yes.
It's like,
and that's going to happen.
Out for the delete button because delete.
And whether we like it or not, life is going to throw us challenges. And I want to be prepared for when they come. I want to be as centered and as grounded as I can be for when they come. I'll be as ready as can be. And I want to help as many people as I can. And that's what I personally have to do to be able to be in a position to do those things.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I have my own, self-care routine. I always kind of improve on it or sometimes I have to make certain adjustments, but normally the morning from 7 a.m. to 10 is mine. Actually, I'm normally awake by 6:30. But I actually wind up, accomplishing quite a bit. And if I'm out on the road and I don't have that same routine, you start to feel off. You don't feel like you're quite yourself, or you have quite the energy, or you don't think, or you don't focus as well. And it's kind of amazing because you don't really think about it until after it happens. And it's like, you're trying to figure out why is it so off? It's like, don't have my routine.
Right. And it's beautiful that you found that, right? Because your routine is your baseline, and going off your routine is the anomaly that can happen. Unfortunately, for some of us, our baseline is chaos, and the anomaly will be the vacation we happen to take or that moment we finally get in church or wherever it may be. So I try to teach people to reverse those things and have your normal state being how you just described you feel, right?
Yeah. And for me, it was also an environment change. I mean, anytime I go back to visit Colorado, I just came back from Denver. And as soon as I hit Denver, I'm like, oh my God, I do not miss chaotic and crazy. I like my peaceful area.
That's beautiful.
Happy to see people, but I'm happy to go back home too.
I know the feeling. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. So how does the physical activity, well, maybe you can share with us. So what wound up stopping you in 2021?
Yeah, so it's a crazy story. And what I hope people can gather from our whole conversation is I want people to understand that they are capable of achieving anything that is in their heart's desire. If you go through my story, I grew up in a small farm town of 2,000 people. I worked in horse barns and shoveled horse manure and baled hay and did every crazy job imaginable. I got arrested. I had dyslexia. Teachers passed me because they didn't want to see me anymore. I'm certain of that. I had all those things happen. In addition, in 2021, I came down with a rare autoimmune disorder called Guillain-Barré Syndrome, or GBS. I had no idea what that was, but I got fully paralyzed and was in the ICU in isolation for 10 days.
Wow.
and I got inspired to write a book. I've never written a book. I am so bad at spelling. When I type stuff in, spell check goes, I have no idea what you're trying to say. It can't even help me. But I wrote a book that became a #1 new release on Amazon, a #1 bestseller. And I want people to take away that if I can do that, imagine what you can achieve. You can really do anything. It doesn't come magically. You have to put in work. You have to have a plan. You have to surround yourself with people that are going to inspire you, maybe even tell you you're wrong and give you a new perspective. But it's all possible. So in 2021, I get COVID. I'm teaching jujitsu to kids, and I probably got it from big groups of kids or whatever. My family gets it. My kids who are 9 and 12, it was like a blip on the radar. They had a sniffle. It was over. My wife got it. It wasn't so bad for her. I got it, and my problem was at the time we had to isolate for 10 days. And so I'm trying to always find balance. Please don't look at me on the screen. And if you feel like this is a guy that has it all figured out, I don't have it all figured out. And I prove it all the time. Right.
Nobody does.
So for me to isolate was a challenge. So here I am. I'm on the assault bike for a half hour, just grinding it out. I'm creating projects around the house that don't need to be done and doing masonry. And I wear myself down, and COVID is way worse for me than it should be. I come through COVID and I heal up from that. But the reason I bring that up is because the doctors don't know where I got GBS from. I could have gotten it from having COVID. The number 2 thing is you could get it from getting vaccinated. And then the number 3 is a bacterial infection. I also had a bacterial infection right before that from a toenail had cut me in jujitsu on my shin, and I had a bad infection. So it could have come from that also. So I get over COVID, and then I don't tell my wife this, but I start not being able to feel my feet. My feet go numb, and that goes on for a week or 2. And then my hands start going numb, and I start losing my urine stream. And I finally break down and tell my wife and say, look, after I get out of work today, I think we should maybe go see a physician. And thank God for my wife. She is my balance. She's my yin to my yang. She goes, no, you're not going to work today, and we're going to go to the doctors and check this out. So we go to the doctors, and they start giving me a battery of tests. And meanwhile, I am like a battery that is getting drained. Like I am losing energy at a rapid rate like I've never experienced in my life. It's starting to get hard for me to stand up. I cannot feel below my shins from my knees to my feet anymore. I have no feeling. My vision is starting to get blurry. So we go to the doctor. We go to urgent care. They give some tests. I faint, and I go unconscious there. They bring me back. And the doctor comes in and says, look, I don't want to scare you, but you may have a rare autoimmune disorder, or you may have MS. We don't have the ability to test here, but I would like to send you to the hospital down the road to the emergency room where they can perform a spinal tap. And they draw the fluid from your spine to see if it has a protein in there. So they bring me to the emergency room. And now at this point, I need a wheelchair. When they test my reflexes, I don't have reflexes anymore. And this is all happening within a couple hours.
I was say that's going fast.
Super fast.
Yeah.
So they take my spinal fluid and they say to me, it's going to be a couple hours before we have the diagnosis. You are welcome to stay here. Or I told them we live a mile from the hospital. You can go home. For me, Laura, the hospital is not a great place. My father suffered in the hospital for a long time, and I have bad memories there. So I decided to go home. And they said, listen, if you go home and it starts ascending the numbness up your body, you have to immediately come back in, because if it attacks your heart and lungs, it will shut your heart and lungs down. Wow. So I go home, I take a nap for 20 minutes, and I wake up and I can no longer feel from my waistline down. It's all numb. So my wife rushes me back in. They put me in isolation. They put me in a wheelchair in the ICU. And I have this thing that I've never heard of before called GBS, Guillain-Barré Syndrome. And they wheel me up in the ICU. And I made a definitive decision at that point. I said, I don't know what I have. I don't know what's going to be the outcome, but I feel no matter what, I'm going to fight and I'm going to get out of here. And I'm never once going to complain about what is going on. And I looked at all the rooms as I was passing, and I said, I know a lot of these people probably won't make it out of here, and I have to feel blessed. And I realized that that was happening for me and not to me. And I made some decisions as they put me in the ICU. And people may think this is crazy, and I don't want to in any way discount Western medicine because they helped me tremendously, and I have great respect, especially the nursing staff and what they did. But I made definitive decisions. Number one, that I was going to fill my mind with positive vibrations. And I had my wife play music that inspires me 24/7 in that ICU room. That was number one. Number two, my wife came up with the concept. We saw the food that was being served there. And I feel like this is an area I want to help with in the future because I knew I wasn't going to heal my body on French fries, chicken fingers, and stuff that was underneath a heat lamp for 3 days. So my wife pureed organic foods and brought them to me because I can no longer swallow. I couldn't eat any solid foods. And number three was I continually meditated and prayed and envisioned my body healing itself. Whether that helped or didn't help, I believe it did. People can disagree with that, but it kept my mind in a positive state as opposed to going, woe is me, like I would have at 18. I was continually mentally working on healing my body. So I had music that inspired me. I was listening to Bob Marley. One of my dear friends and clients is Ziggy Marley. I worked with him for 20 years. I had his music on. I had my wife nourishing my body with organic foods, and I had my mind continually praying to a higher power, to God, and envisioning my body healing itself. And in 10 days, a lot went on. But after 10 days, I got wheeled out of there in a wheelchair. And I progressed and worked my ass off from getting out of a wheelchair to a walker, to a cane, to moving again, to never stopping, to doing therapy 7 days a week, 5 days with a physical therapist and 2 on my own. And at some points, just moving my fingers together was progress. But I said, I will not stop this until I can get back. And I got inspired to write a book there too. I said, how do I put all this together to help other people? And I was off of work for 3 months rehabbing, trying to come back. And in that time, I listened to a book that inspired me from a good friend of mine that had written a book about jujitsu. His name's Richard Bressler. He gave me the editor's name. I reached out to him. Scott Burr helped me with that. And it's just so wild and crazy how the world works and how the universe works and how things will come in alignment and how curses, which you think can be a curse, can be a blessing. And I sat down in front of a typewriter and I wrote a book and put my life's journey in there. And that brought me to being on this conversation with you, where you're looking at a guy that never stops talking and never catches a breath.
It's an amazing story. And you know, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that look at that and say, oh, woo woo. And I know Western medicine, it has its place, but so does Eastern. And so is the other. It's a matter of combining the two, but you're not alone. I've known other people that have done their own personal visualizations and did things to, you know, heal themselves. The music, the mind is a powerful, powerful tool. So yeah, when you can do that mindset work, you know, I mean, I think it's fantastic that you were able, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but the fact that you had at least those tools to get you through that, and be able to put them all together is amazing.
And I wouldn't have had those tools if I went in there without having all the challenges in my life ahead of time. Those were preparing me for that moment. If I didn't get arrested, if I didn't sleep on floors, if I didn't have not a penny to my name at some point and eating cans of tuna fish, and I was getting prepared for that challenge in my life. So when people go through challenges and they're like, man, why is this happening to me? You do not know. I would probably have not walked out of that ICU and would have perished there. So those all prepared me. And you talk about the power of the mind. I am such a believer in the power of the mind. And while I was in the hospital, I thought of this. they give placebo trials where one of the medications is totally fake. It's either sugar water or however they want to put it together. And they give the regular medicine. And you can look this up. This isn't my mumbo jumbo. But people get results from the placebo because their mind believes that it is the medicine. So why do you need a placebo drug? It's your mind. You can believe that things can heal. You can help yourself heal. And on the flip side, if you have negative thoughts in your head, they also have the power to make you sick. They have the power to make you upset. They have the power to make you put you down in the dumps and affect yourself in a negative way. So we have control of the most powerful computer in the world. And why not use it for good and to empower yourself?
Yeah. And instead of abusing it, that's why I always tell people, I'm like, control what you can control. And the only thing you can control is you. Can't control your spouse. You can't control the world. You control what you do, how you react, how you perceive. I tell people I stay in my happy place. There's a lot of crazy going on. I can't control it. I can control what I do, what I see. And, I stay in my happy place.
I love that. I love that. Yep. So that, and I mean, I know we're running out of time or however we are on time, but there's so many things that I have been through that have put me in that place. And now from writing this book, I just did a little filming yesterday of a friend of a friend of a friend, like 10 degrees of separation. This individual ended up having Guillain-Barré Syndrome. It was paralyzed in the hospital. And they had heard that I had it. So they connected us. And I was FaceTiming him in the hospital. And I'm like, listen, you can make it through this. I've been down this road. And I sent him some exercise bands, and he had the will to continue to work. And he was so scared because he knew nothing about it. I was scared because I knew nothing about it. But now he can relate to someone that's been through it. And we sat down yesterday. This happened probably 8 months ago. And he was able to rehab himself. And we both sat down together for the first time. And he is fully functional again. And we just wanted to put together some tips for people that may be out there that are dealing with whatever, and go, hey, there's someone out there that's gone through this too. You combine forces, you can relate, you can help each other. And so it's been a blessing. I wouldn't take it away. It's been a blessing in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that had to feel amazing to be able to help make that difference for him.
It did. It does. It does. And I gave this analogy yesterday. I had give him some simple, just exercise bands. I had him brought to him and he used them. And when he came back, he brought me my exercise bands, which I didn't ask for. And he brought me other stuff, which was so touching to me. And I wanted people to understand. I go, look, I gave him something, not because I wanted anything in return, but I got more in return than I gave him. And now the stuff that he gave me, which was exercise equipment, I'm gifting to somebody else that needs that. So when you give without the intention of getting back, you almost always get back more in some form, whether that's love, affection, whatever it is, however you want to describe it, and you'll get back more. Trust me.
Oh yeah, I always tell, I've talked with a number of people, and most of us are in the same mindset that, of course we want to be able to help a lot of people, but if you can even just make a difference in one person's life, and help them, I'm good with that. It's always nice to help more, but even if you get that one, it's fantastic.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because when you help that one, where does that one go? That person helps somebody. You have now the domino effect, and you have no idea how far it reverberates.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad we'll put it back up here again. The name of your book is Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer, which is why I used that name for for this episode. I thought it was kind of catchy. But it takes a lot, to share all that. I used to be in a position where everybody was like writing books, and I'm thinking, well, what do I got? But if you think about it, we all have some kind of story or journey, something to share. It'll resonate with someone out there. We got millions of people out there. Someone would definitely resonate, and maybe even say, hey, now I know that someone that can relate to me and can help me.
I love that. And if you read the book or you listen to the audiobook, Look at, as I said, I had violence. You know all that, right? This is crazy. Laura, if you saw me, I said I was 4'11" in the beginning. Was 4'11" as a freshman in high school. My mother cut my hair. I had a bowl cut, and I had a great, nice case of acne. And then literally just 10 years later, I end up going to Hollywood. Become a trainer to celebrities and everything. And I get put in through, I won't get all the details, but I get put into being a model with Gisele Bündchen, who was married to Tom Brady. And I become the Dolce Gabbana guy. And I'm internationally on billboards across the world and everything. And if you saw me literally just a couple years earlier, you're like, this guy is cutting his hair and he's 4'11". And I say that because once again, I want everybody to know that everything is possible. Like, it is a freak of nature, things that have happened to me in my life, that I would have a better chance of hitting the lottery. So if you think that your dream is far-fetched, if you think that it's so far out there, somebody else has done it. Follow their path, study their clues, put in the work, take care of yourself, and step by step, you can go from a little farm town to going on international tours with people, to being the Dolce Gabbana guy, to getting paralyzed and writing a book. That it's all possible. It is.
Yeah, and you are living proof of it.
I try.
Yep. No, that is it. I think it's amazing. And I am so glad that you chose to come here and share your story. We've only got a couple of minutes left. What is on the horizons for you?
Oh, that's a great question. So I would love to take what I do. Say I see 8 to 10 individuals every day, and I help them, and I love it, and it's my passion. I found what my calling is in life, and I love it. I just want to expand it to bigger groups, and I want to get into public speaking. My goal for 2024 is I want to do a TED Talk. I want to talk to youth groups that I can connect with kids that may be headed down the wrong path. The incredible thing happened to me. I'll get this in quick. Somebody in jail read my book, and they contacted me in a medium security prison in Virginia. And we've been writing back and forth. And now he has direction on what he wants to do when he gets out in 3 years. So I want to do that. I want to inspire. I want to donate my time and talk to groups, whether that's in a youth facility or in a prison or on a TED Talk stage, wherever it is. I want to help out as much as I can to bigger groups.
And I may have some people to connect you with, because I know some people that have been on TED Talks and have done that. They're international speakers. I even there's another show that we have that runs on Achieve TV called Invisible Condition. That's run by a gentleman that's had hydrocephalus. That's, something I had never heard of, but
Same.
that people struggle with. So be happy to connect with you. What is the best way for people to connect with you? Your Confessions of a Hollywood Trainer that we had up there.com, or?
Yeah, so that's a website you can connect with me on. My name is John Petrelli, johnpetrelli.com. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to social media, but I am there. John.Petrelli on Instagram, Facebook. It's John Petrelli, I believe. I want to put something out, Laura. I want to put something out in honor of you for serving our country. Man, you can tell how visceral this is for me. But I want to put this out to people that are veterans, are serving, that reach out to me. If you have a question, if you just need someone to talk to, if you need nutritional advice, I want to donate some time and help you. I want to do that and put that out there. It may take me a minute to get back to you. I can't, as you said, we can only help so many people, but I want to donate some time. I do that every year. So if you hear this and you're inspired, you have a question, please reach out to me. I'll do whatever I can. And that's because Our Lady Laura Cross right there has served our country.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My late husband did. My father did. Unfortunately, they're both gone now, and I still work with the veterans of the Ozarks. I'm still tied to the military. I've been military all my life. That's just not something that you just take out. But
that's right.
Thank you very much.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much for spending your time with us today and sharing all of that information with us. It was a pleasure having you. So I just want to thank everybody for watching, and to remind you that, or invite you actually, to go to the Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross YouTube channel, click subscribe, turn on those notifications, so that way you can see this interview at any time and catch up with all of the other amazing lineup of people we have. All different, we all have different perceptions, and the hope is just to be able to relate to someone and provide support for you. So thank you for watching, and we will catch you all next week.